Jay on the line here. Jay, you're on Free Talk Live in Colorado.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Jay.
As you know, a couple segments ago, Mark posed the question, what is the agreement, to participate in this tax scheme? Well, it's not exactly what he said, but essentially what I think he said.
He said, what was the obligation? What was the obligation?
Yep. So, I have literally, for the past decade, been asking this question. I've asked it to tax collectors in writing. Of course, they don't answer. And then I did a public records request back in 2010 for them to provide the documents that the town really relies on, that I have consented to agreeing to participate in a property tax. And what they sent me back was the deed that the guy who sold me the house signed. Doesn't have my signature on it.
Mm-hmm.
They sent me the deed that he's a grantor on, a grantee on. A grantee is the guy who buys the house. And then they sent me the deed that they sent me back the last 7 deeds, certified copies of them, and that was all. And that was their answer to my public records request for, the agreement. And,
did the deed contain any stipulations about paying property taxes?
In fact, it's not property tax; it's real estate tax. And in fact, none of these deeds say the word real estate on them. They all say a tract of land. So no, there was no stipulation, and
you didn't sign it anyway.
So now, when my father was in court on the farm thing, he asked in every possible way we could conceive, asking, "Where's the agreement? What's the agreement?" And in fact, I got the transcripts, the recordings. Maybe he asked the question. I think we counted 27 times in a row. Where is the instrument I sign that compels me to this purpose? Now,
an instrument, by the way, is a legalese term that means a contract, basically an agreement of some sort, something you'd sign.
Right. So in 1991, my father did this when they brought him to court because he bought that land in 1983, and the judge told the town, "You have 30 days to provide said instrument," and at the next court date, the town attorney never appeared, and they removed the tax liens from the property in 1991. And then in 2012, I think it was 2012, 2011, I don't know the dates, we were in Boston at land court, and we asked it in writing. We did a motion demanding it. We did public records requests. We did freedom of information. We did every conceivable thing to cover every basis. So finally, the town's attorney says, interestingly noted, I have right here a deed where Mr. Noon agrees to pay the property taxes now, or pay the real estate tax. Now, the deed doesn't say that, and we objected up and down, and that's actually one of the reasons that I'm suing the town's lawyer in land court, because he misled the court and lied. And so anyways, that's all in federal appeals court right now. But recently, for about, the past 3 months, I've probably been spending literally 25 to 30 hours a week on conference calls doing research on where this agreement lies. And I've been on the phone the past couple of days with people about this. And what our theory is, and the reason I'm calling it a theory is because I haven't put everything together to prove it yet. I shouldn't say the people and I have been working on this. And the theory is that when you register the deed in the registry of deeds, you abandon the deed, and the registry of deeds is essentially like a bank. It's like you're depositing a check but not withdrawing the cash when you register a deed is what our research is leading to now. And
so are you claiming that when you register a deed with the town that you're essentially giving the town the property? Is that the idea?
Well, what you're doing is you're putting the property into trust. The town is putting it into trust. You, in this trust, become the trustee, and the town becomes the executor and the beneficiary. Hence, all of this stuff with permits and taxation, and you having to bear.
How do you get it back out?
Well, this is exactly what the girl who helps you, her mother and I are working on this very diligently, and it's actually being tested this week. We did a notice of removal from county registry of the property, and that it was being transferred out of any implied trust, estate, corporation, anything that they could possibly come up with, and it was no longer for public consumption because everything that's put into the public arena is for public consumption, from what our research has found.
So you filed a notice with who? The county recorder?
Yes, the county registry of deeds.
And so that's just been filed?
Well, if it hasn't been filed yesterday, it'll be filed Monday.
Fascinating. And now, I guess another question would be, how do you avoid putting the deed in there in the first place? Isn't it the title company that does all that? I've never gone down and filed a deed. That's something I've never done.
Well, here's part of the fraud about it. Now, my dad specifically was smart enough in 1983 not to register the deed. So the people who owned my dad's land kept on getting this tax bill. So what them people did is they said, "Hey, Spud, you got to put this deed in." And he says, "No, I'm not doing it. I got the deed in a safe spot. It's my property. I'm not giving it to the town." And my dad was part of this, free man stuff, since the 70s. So, anyways, they ended up the people who formerly owned the property, their lawyer actually recorded the deed like 2 or 3 years after the property was
purchased,
sold, transferred. Yeah. So, and it shows that right on the deed. The date is, I don't remember the exact amount of years, but it was a significant time after the deed was written and notarized and all that, and that it was recorded in the registry of deeds. And that's actually when they went back like 5 or 6 years the first time around, before they came after my dad on the property tax.
You'll have to keep us in the loop, Jay. I think that's fascinating, and if you're able to actually pull the deed from the county registry, that'll be a huge victory. I don't know what's going to happen with that, so let us know when you know, and thank you for the info tonight. That's Jay Noon. Jay is a guy, for listeners who are new to the show or have never heard Jay before, and we could have kept him on the whole hour, but he's a guy who actually puts his beliefs into action. Now, he's not always right, or sometimes he might believe he's right, but the government doesn't do what he's expecting them to.
He's not always successful.
Yeah.
I think is probably better.
But he's someone who actually put his own house on the line and ultimately lost it in this sort of property tax fight, if you will. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Is he on to something? We'll find out over time here as the case continues to develop. More coming up here on Free Talk Live. You bring up anything. We've got Kristin in Massachusetts. You're on Free Talk Live. Kristin.
I just wanted to comment on Jay Noon.
Sure.
Jay Noon's thing about the property tax.
Yeah, Jay's, for our listeners just tuning in, Jay's a hero of mine. He actually put his own property on the line in a heroic stand against property tax and ultimately lost it in Palmer, Massachusetts. Go ahead.
Yes, that's when I met you first, Ian. But anyways, I've been in Massachusetts. I had my house right now for like 30 years, and so what's going to happen after 30 years? So I'm paying my property tax, and I've owned the house 30 years, so I still have to pay tax on my land. That's ridiculous.
It never ends.
And I should never have actually paid for my tax the whole time.
Well, the government, whatever that municipal government is that collects your taxes, they've been collecting money on that land nonstop
forever.
For hundreds of years.
If you didn't
they
pay,
don't care who owns it because you're just a renter there as far as they're concerned.
I mean, if you didn't pay the tax, Kristin, you'd have no roof over your head at some point because they'd do the same thing they did to Jay Noon. They'd come with a team of men with guns and they'd throw you out into the street, and they wouldn't care if it was in the middle of January in Massachusetts.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.